Coming up,
ladies and gentlemen, Sophie Duke.
At just 12 years old, trick rider Sophie Duke finds her calling and balance on horseback. Plus,
they're about 80 years old now, and I'm still weaving on those same original looms.
Cherokee weaver Kathy Abercrombie works to ensure that Oak Hill weaving traditions remain for future generations. And Phil Constantine has done it all.
Travels with Phil. Hi, I'm Phil Constantine.
We travel to San Diego, California, and learn Cherokee history is everywhere. And we take a look at Cherokee people's earliest contact with European colonizers.
They had agency, they had power, and they used it.
The Cherokees.
A thriving American Indian tribe.
Our history.
Our culture.
Our people.
Our future.
The principles of a historic nation.
Sewn into the fabric of a modern world.
Hundreds of thousands strong. Learning.
Growing.
Succeeding.
And steadfast.
In the past, we have persevered through struggle.
But the future is ours to write.
Osiyo.
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 These are the voices of the Cherokee people.
Osiyo, I'm Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. Welcome to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, capital city of the Cherokee Nation. For generations, the Cherokee story has been told by others. Today, through this groundbreaking series, we're taking ownership of our own story and telling it as beautifully and authentically as we can. I hope you enjoy these profiles of our people, our history, and our culture. And please make plans to come visit us sometime. Wado.
Osiyo, it's how we say hello in Cherokee. I'm your host, Jennifer Lauren, in the Cherokee National History Museum. Here you'll find unique materials and artifacts dating back to the early days of Cherokee trade. We'll have more on that, plus our earliest contact with Europeans a little later in our Cherokee Almanac. But first, we've probably all known an extreme animal lover at some point in our lives, but 12-year-old Sophie Duke takes it to a whole new level. As an up-and-coming trick rider, Sophie's entire life revolves around her connection to her animals and her horsemanship.
Most definitely in your blood, and it's like anything else. If you get a passion for it, and it's there, it's in your heart, and in some people's more than others, but if you get bit by it, you know, it gets a hold of you, you've got it, and you just have to go with it. That's what has happened to Sophie. You know, it is her passion.
I am Sophie Duke. I am 12 years old. I'm a trick rider and trick shooter. There you go. Stretch. Stretch. There you go. Good boy.
Troop's family, Sophie's dad's family, rodeo people. His dad was a bull rider, his mom's a barrel racer, his sister was a barrel racer. So Sophie really had no choice but to like, the rodeo scene. She started very young with horses. We got her a little pony for her first birthday. And just basically by the time she was able to sit up and walk good, she was sitting in a saddle by herself and riding.
I would say I've grown up on a horse, and that's what I've done. Other kids, they may come home from school and play video games and play on iPads. I don't do that. I come straight to the barn and I ride and I do that type stuff. I've never played a video game. I'm not like most kids. Stretch. Stretch. There you go. Don't eat them. You're gonna get poked.
She does have a lot of animals.
She wants one or two of everything, and it doesn't matter if it's a chicken or a duck or a dog.
I have a rabbit, his name is Honeybun, 5 ducks.
Turtle.
Sunny May is a little mule. Elsie and Radar are the cows. Gracie,
Cat.
Cowgirl, and of course Jessie.
Horses.
And my Roman riding team is Darby and Jolene. The 2 minis, Duke, and he's a miniature horse. Am I forgetting anybody?
Dogs.
8 dogs, Bo, Josie, Annie, Biddy, Brantley, and Concho.
The only thing she doesn't have right now that she really wants is a basset hound, so I'm holding out. I'm trying to stand my ground.
We were at a PRCA rodeo in El Paso, Arkansas, and the All-American Cowgirl Chicks were there. I was glued against the fence. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
And when they were finished, she had already decided at 3 years old, that's what I want to do. So we kind of pushed it aside. I thought she would probably be a barrel racer like her grandma and her aunt. We were actually down at the bottom of the hill one day, and she was riding her horse. I hear this little voice behind me says, Mama, look, and I turn around and she's got a leg wrapped around the saddle horn of her Western saddle, hanging off to the side, coming at a pretty good lope. So at that point, I told her dad, I said, I think we should probably find some trick riding lessons.
Sophie has to practice as well as the horses. And it is a team. She has a team, and it is teamwork.
I for sure want to perform at the National Finals Rodeo in Vegas.
Well, it grew 2 inches.
Out of shape to do that too. I want to get my pro card for sure in the next few years.
As we clear the arena, she is a 7th grader, a member of the Cherokee Nation.
She can turn it on, and she, there's times we'll get out to a performance and I forget she's a little girl. She's 12.
Trains her own horses.
It's like when she puts on her costume, it's almost like when Superman puts on his cape. She puts on that costume and she is just glowing and excited and out there putting on a big show. She loves every minute of it.
She needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Sophie Duke.
I definitely feed off the crowd, and so do my horses. They're ready to go. They know what's happening, and I'm the same way. When the lights come on and there's music in the crowd, I'm definitely ready and my adrenaline's pumping.
When the lights come on at the rodeo, that's when I get my reward.
It is very fun. It's fun for me to have just a moment to sparkle.
She's a 3rd-generation textile weaver and is passing her craft down to a 4th and even 5th generation. Kathy Abercrombie takes us inside a weaving tradition built from the ground up right here in the Cherokee Nation.
The weavers of this tiny little community did a lot to be proud of. They have work all over the world. I feel like it's my responsibility to keep that history alive. I don't want any of these ladies forgotten, not just my granny and my Aunt Charlene, but all the weavers that were out here. I am Kathy Abercrombie. I live in Jay, Oklahoma. I'm a Cherokee Nation citizen, and I'm a 3rd-generation Oak Hill loom weaver. This is hallowed ground for me. We are in the community building at Oak Hill at Piney. If you don't know where Piney is, it's a little bitty community outside of Jay, Oklahoma. It's really in the middle of nowhere. But there was a school next door, and then the weavers were in here. It housed 6 or 7 looms, and although my grandparents lived here, all the weavers from the community would come here and weave. They wove here for about 40 years. There was the Oak Hill Weavers Association. My granny eventually became president of it and ran it. Her name was Pearl Pauline Abercrombie. She was known for her diamond weave blankets, but they wove everything from rugs, placemats, hit-and-miss blankets, and wool blankets. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is the 4-harness loom that I weave on now, on Granny's loom. The looms that were used here at Oak Hill were made at the Sequoia Orphanage in the late 1930s. They got plans from the BIA, and the students actually made the looms. They were set up in all different weaving halls throughout this area in Oklahoma. My granny started weaving on these same looms. Then my Aunt Charlene and most of my aunts wove on them. They're about 80 years old now, and I'm still weaving on those same original looms. My Granny Pearl taught me how to weave when I was about 8 years old. She started me out on placemats, and it's kind of funny, everyone else started out on rag rugs. After placemats, my granny taught me how to weave acrylic rugs, and that's where I really started getting into colors and designs. That's where I could see my real love for it when I became a teenager. That's when I really got into designing and the color schemes. That's when I knew it would be something I would want to do forever. This is my granny's loom. This is the 4-harness. And this wasn't the only 4-harness loom at Oak Hill, but she was the only one that did the diamond weave. When Granny passed away and I inherited her looms, I realized that I didn't know how to weave the diamond weave. And I built a weaving hall, I got the looms set up, and one night I was going through paperwork, and in it I found in her steno book, she had written out all the instructions how to load and weave the diamond weave blanket. And so I've always carried that forward, and that's mainly what I do, is the diamond weave. If you look at most Cherokee Africans, they have what's called a break-in thread, and that's the thread that breaks 2 colors apart. My granny was known for putting a mint green thread, and it didn't matter what color of blanket you ordered. If you didn't specify it, Granny would put that mint green thread in there. When I asked her one time what that was, she said that's like when you have a very fancy dinner and you take a bite of lime green sherbet to cleanse your palate. And I thought that was so funny because I'm not sure Granny ever went to a fancy dinner to have that mint sherbet, but that was how she taught me color, and that's what always sticks in my mind now. So when I'm messing with different colors, I remember to have a breaking thread or a neutral green or something to cleanse the palette with your color. I didn't have daughters to pass this down to, but I do have 3 sons, and all 3 of them are accomplished weavers. They all either have won awards or have weaving in museums or collections. Getting these looms set up again means everything to me. But more than anything, I got to see my grandkids weave on them. My granddaughter is 7, and she's my girl. When I saw her start weaving, it was like 2 minutes and she was in the zone. She had her rhythm down, and I thought, I've got a weaver, I've got a weaver. And later I thought, I wonder if that's what my granny saw in me. They knew I would always be a weaver. They knew that I would pass this on. I sneak out to Oak Hill every once in a while just because it's home. I come out by myself and walk around. This is where I feel my family. This is where I feel my granny and grandpa, my aunts and uncles, and my daddy. This was the happiest place. My Granny Pearl's legacy was starting this. My Aunt Charlene's was carrying it on and passing it to me. I want my legacy to be known that I was the one that helped keep it alive, and my goal is to see that it goes 7 generations.
When European explorers first descended upon the villages of southeastern woodlands tribes, chaos often ensued. In this Cherokee Almanac, we take a look back at our tribal ancestors' earliest encounters with non-Indigenous people.
First contact between Cherokee people and Europeans likely occurred during Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto's 1540 expedition of what would become the southeastern United States. De Soto and his army of more than 600 soldiers first landed near present-day Tampa Bay, Florida.
They were searching for gold. They were searching for gems. They were searching for silver. And when he didn't find these things, my understanding is that there was a lot of brutality that was enacted on Native peoples. In actuality, they were looters. They were there to loot the land and enslave people.
As the Spanish army traveled north, they pillaged the native communities they encountered and introduced them to diseases they had never before suffered. It is believed that De Soto's army first encountered Cherokees at the village of Guasili in May of 1540, in what is now western North Carolina.
Cherokee people are in the southeastern United States living really pretty awesome lives. They went to water every morning. They were very clean people. And then they encounter Europeans who were not.
By the time the Spanish army arrived in Cherokee territory, Cherokee food reserves from the previous year's harvest were running low. The Army's urgent need to resupply may have spared Cherokees from experiencing the same level of brutality that was inflicted upon other people of the southeastern woodlands over the next 2 years. Hernando de Soto ultimately died of a severe fever on the western banks of the Mississippi River in May of 1542. But the Spanish interest in colonizing Cherokee land did not end with De Soto.
The first really well-documented contact is with a small Spanish army under Captain Juan Pardo.
Pardo's men headed inland from the East Coast in December of 1566 and built 6 forts, 2 of which were likely in Cherokee territory.
It's an incredible act of hubris for the Spanish to build forts and to seek to claim a territory that was inhabited.
Pardo had been given this task to establish a roadway and pacify the Indians, let the Indians know that they were now subject to the King of Spain. The only fort we've identified archaeologically is Fort San Juan, located at the Native American town of Juara.
Juara was located near modern-day Morganton, North Carolina.
One really interesting thing that we've learned from really early historic records, people all the way from Niquosi and Gadua walked over there quite a distance on foot to see what was happening with Juan Pardo and to try and understand, what this new presence was in the landscape.
What this clearly demonstrates is that these are people who understand diplomacy. They've engaged in diplomacy with peoples around them for millennia. They don't understand these new people, but they understand that you need to get engaged.
Of course, they started out under the guise of allyship and under the guise of friendship. And eventually, they did reveal their true colors.
So when the Spanish were garrisoned, they left 30 soldiers at Fort San Juan. They expected to get supplied again from Santa Elena, but that didn't happen. And they continued to expect the native communities to support them. That was a crucial problem, obviously.
We did see from early Spanish explorers the enslavement of indigenous peoples, and we saw the kidnapping of indigenous women. They did not consider Indian and indigenous people to be humans. They considered them to be a lower form of life.
Often it's depicted that, well, Europeans come in and basically, the Indians are helpless after that. That's certainly not the case at all. And particularly since we know that the Cherokees and other Indians ended up destroying the forts after 18 months. They had agency, they had power, and they used it.
So for Cherokee people and other indigenous people in the Southeast to strike back and destroy those forts, in my view, it looks like a defense of our homeland. I see it purely as defense.
Jaleki idi wonihi. Let's talk Cherokee.
Tio ali dawadon.
I am running.
Gasli.
I am running.
Gasli.
Two of us are running.
Ostasli.
Two of us are running.
Ostasli.
A group of us are running.
Ojasli.
A group of us are running.
Ojasli.
Phil Constantine is a Cherokee Nation citizen living in San Diego, California. It's hard to nail down exactly what Phil is best known for, an author, a highway patrolman, or jack of all trades. Most people say Phil is an interesting guy who's done a lot of cool stuff.
Travels with Phil. Hi, I'm Phil Constantine.
So I've done lots of different things. I've had approximately 50 different types of jobs, not just 50 jobs, but 50 different types of jobs. Now, this is everything from doing construction work to I helped run the computers downstairs from Mission Control at NASA. I was a highway patrol officer for 20 years. I was a TV reporter for 11 some odd years. So I got to be fairly well known. I've written all kinds of magazine articles, written over 100 magazine and newspaper articles, written a couple of books. On this episode of Travels with Phil, we're going to be going to Old Town in San Diego and specifically looking at some of the Cherokee connections there. My name is Phil Constantine, born in Houston, Texas, 1952, and the first child of Morris and Lila Constantine. And it's been steadily downhill ever since. My mom was born in Tulsa, and that's where I get my Cherokee ancestry from. She grew up all over Oklahoma. Her running story was that whenever the rent came due, they moved. Grew up in the suburbs of Houston for about 27 years. Then in 1980, moved out to California, and I've been out here in California ever since. If you think of, America the Beautiful, Purple Mountain Majesty, Oceans of White with Foam, everything in that song San Diego has except for the amber waves of grains. And we got avocados, that's better. But first full-time job was running computers, and I worked for a mortgage company. And I found a little ad for a computer operator at the Johnson Space Center and put in the application, got it. While I was one of the smallest cog in the machine, but just for the sheer fact that I was part of this, I'm pretty proud of that. What got me interested in the highway patrol was that my dad had been in law enforcement most of my recollection as a child. It's not like the old TV show Chips, where you're out chasing people to disco music and people on roller skates and things like that. It's really, you're dealing with people who are in a bad situation. And sometimes it's incredibly serious. Sometimes it can be funny. I think it was Joseph Wambaugh talking about law enforcement. It says it's 98% boredom, punctuated by 1% of sheer terror. This is a picture of me and Robin. and she's the one all in white. And, and this is where when we got married in 1997, and this was up at Torrey Pines.
So here we go in the front door.
And so we had known each other, oh goodness, since the 70s. But we didn't get married until 1997. And unfortunately, she died a couple years after this picture was taken. But this was a really nice day getting married there at Torrey Pines Reserve.
I'm a little bit east of Sierra Blanca in Texas. Is on this spot on April 6, 1999. My wife, Robin, fell asleep while behind the wheel.
Robin fell asleep while she was driving, and she didn't survive the crash. I decided to try and see what I could do to help. So I started preparing statistics and facts, a website. I did a couple public service announcements.
Don't become a highway statistic. If you find yourself driving tired, stop. Get some exercise, get some coffee, or better yet, get some sleep.
Contacted a state senator, and he passed it through the state legislature that April 6th would be declared Drowsy Driver Awareness Day in California, which is the day that it happened. And now that was almost 21 years ago. Sometimes it's a little hard covering that territory again, but
Most Charlie Brown bogey I've ever seen.
Something that I don't want to have to see it happen to anybody else. This is my granddaughter, Jazzle, and I spend time with her. I never had a grandfather, and both of my grandmothers had gone by the time I was a teenager. So sharing time with her, but also watching her grow.
And the sign out front here says, Edward Wilkerson Bushyhead, early San Diego sheriff.
And maybe imparting a little wisdom as far as that's concerned, but we do have a good relationship. I think it would be nice that when I'm long gone, she'll still have some memories that she shared with an older member of her family. I finally retired when I was 64. I definitely like to stay busy. Between 2016 and 2017, 18 months, I traveled through 45 different states, about 65,000 miles, and about one photograph for every mile on average. And so I've been compiling videos, and so far I've done about maybe 3,000 videos on my YouTube page, which is Cherokee Phil is one word. Little shameless plug there, folks. I can easily say the more I've learned, the more I know there is to learn. There's all kinds of things that happen in this very, very complex world, and there's a whole lot of gray out there. But I try to have a positive outlook on life.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our show. And remember, you can always watch entire episodes and share your favorite stories online at Osio.tv. There is no Cherokee word for goodbye because we know we'll see you again. We say, Doda Dago Ha'i. Wado.